Hey Suhara, welcome back to my channel, to the Witchy Reader. So I'm going to be talking about my September readathon, my September TBR. I'm going to be doing the Sapphic September readathon. So I have a list of the books I'm reading for the prompts. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they're about. Most of them I hadn't actually heard of before I decided to do this. So I have good reads up too, so I can read the descriptions. I do have a couple rereads in here, and there is one book that I did have on my TBR, so which is good because there is a prompt up a book that's been on your TBR. So yeah, I'm happy I found one of these books that I've actually had on my TBR for a while. So, um, by a person of color author, I have You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. Um, I can't find it now. Hold on. It says, at Camp Mirror Lake, terror is the name of the game, but can you survive the night? This heart, Charity Curtis has the summer job of her dreams playing the final girl at Camp Mirror Lake. Guests paid to be scared in this full contract terror game as Charity and her summer crew recreate scenes from a classic slasher film, Curse of Camp Mirror Lake. The more realistic the fear, the better for business. For the last weekend of the season, Charity's workers begin disappearing, and when one ends up dead, Charity's role as the final girl suddenly becomes all too real. If Charity and her girlfriend Bezzy hope to survive the night, they'll need to figure out what the killer is after. Is there more to the story of Mirror Lake and its dangerous past than Charity ever suspected? So yeah, a bit more thriller, which I love horror movies, but I haven't actually delved into horror books that much, except for the Mantis Clan series, which I love. I recently read the fifth book for the author. I think it was the fifth book. And then I do have Final Girls on my TBR. So yeah. Um, but it sounds interesting, and obviously Sapphic, so I'm all for it. Sword wielding Saphics, I have Once and Future, which apparently was in my TBR because I was trying to find books for these, and the Sapphic there's a Sapphic September Twitter account, and they had like suggestions for each book, for each prompt, and I noticed that this was on it, and that I had already had it in my TBR, and I was like, okay, that works, especially since there is because I did double up a couple books for prompts, and there is one later on for books that's been on your TBR for too long, and since I didn't remember that I had this on my TBR, it's been on there for way too long, so. King Arthur, as you never imagined, this bold, sizzling YA retells a popular legend with the once and future as a teenage girl, and she has a universe to save. I've been chased my whole life as a fugitive refugee in the territory controlled by the I can't speak today. Tyrannical Mercer Corporation. I've always had to hide who I am until I found Excalibur. Now I'm done hiding. My name is Ari Helix. I have a magic sword, a cranky wizard, and a revolution to start. When Ari crash lands on an old Earth and pulls the magic sword from its ancient resting place, she is revealed to be the newest reincarnation of King Arthur. Then she meets Merlin, who has aged backward over the centuries into a teenager, and together they must break the curse that keeps Arthur coming back. Their quest: defeat the cruel, oppressive governments and bring peace and equality to all humankind. At least I'm pretty sure that was the one I saw on their list. So I might double check just to make sure, but yeah. Um, and so yeah, sounds interesting. I have read one other book that has to do with the King Arthur tale. It was an indie called King's Rise. Great book. And I do like the TV show Merlin. That's 5 seasons. But other than that, I haven't really delved too much into this tale. I know there's supposed to be a Disney movie, like Sword and the Stone, I think, or something like that. But I never watched it. Less than 1,000 Goodreads ratings. I have Drawing Lines of Blood, which is their book in Towers of Memory series, which is indie, and I have been wanting to read it. I just finished book 2, last month, so I'm going to be reading book 3 and hopefully book 4 as well this month. So there is a side character, or she's not really a side character. The main character is Seraphina, and her friends are pretty important too, so I don't really consider her a side character. But Celica, she likes girls, and she's always flirting with Angelina, and I think they're so cute. So yeah. Um, and then it, for indie book, or I also have Drawing Lines of Blood. And then for Magical Sapphic Sap, These Witches Don't Burn, which I have read. And it's about these covens of witches. The main character is dealing with her toxic ex, and she meets a new girl that she starts instantly liking. I only read the book once; it was earlier this year, but I really liked it. It was a duology, and I really enjoyed it. There's these witch hunters, I think they were, that was like trying to kill all witches in the covens and stuff, and then she ends up having to step up and try to save her coven. And yeah. Disaster Sapphics, I have This Coven Won't Break, which is the book 2 to that. Um, for 2024 release, I have Thawing the Nightmare, which is book 4, and Towers of Memory series. I just mentioned Drawing Lines of Blood, which was book 3. And yeah, so I have that too because that's supposed to come out this month. I think it's the 13th is supposed to come out. So yeah, plan to read that soon as well. Then for Sapphic Historical, I have Queer Villains of Myth and Legends, which I'm not a big nonfiction reader, as y'all probably know. But I did read, not last month, but the month before that, Queer Ducks and Other Animals, because I thought it was interesting to read about queerness in animals. So that's the only reason why I read it. And that is the only reason why I want to read this too. But it says, every hero needs a villain. Explore the hidden world of magnetic and mysterious villains often cast aside and misunderstood in tales of mythology and folklore. Through the pages of Queer Villains of Myth and Legend, discover a diverse community of fascinating characters ranging from seductive and cunning to powerful and awe-inspiring. So, experience the dark allure of Circe and Medusa through to David Bowie's Jareth and Labyrinth, and delve into their complex and multifaceted personalities and motivations. Take a deep dive into the intersection of queerness and villainy, re-examine some of our favorite characters, and discover why so many bad characters are queer-coded. Interesting, for sure. Um, for chronic illness rep, I have Ascension. Um, Alana Quirk is the best sky surgeon in Hero Door City, but repairing Starship's engines barely pays the bills when the desperate crew of a cargo vessel stops by her shipyard looking for her spiritually advanced sister Nova. Alana stows away. Maybe her boldness will land her a long-term gig on the crew, but the tangled accent proves to be more than star watching and plasma coils. The chief engineer thinks he's a wolf. The pilot fades in and out of existence. The captain is all blonde hair, boots, and ego, and Laga can't keep her eyes off of her. But there's little time for romance. Nova's in danger, and someone will do anything, even destroying planets, to get their hands on her. Never heard of that book, but sounds kind of interesting. A little bit more sci-fi than I usually read, but I'm gonna give it a chance. Famous Sapphics, I also have You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight because they're on movie sets, so she's obviously a movie star. So that's why I have that. Novella or graphic novel or short story, because apparently queer heroes of myth and legend, which is basically like queer villains, but it's not that long, only like a couple hundred pages, I think, like 200 pages, I think. So here it is. Um, yeah, 224 pages. Um, Hidden in the margins of history books, classic literature, and thousands of years of stories, myths, and legends, through to contemporary literature, TV, and film, there is a diverse of otherworldly super community of queer heroes to discover, learn from, and celebrate. Be captivated by stories of forbidden love like Patroclus and Achilles, explored in Madeline Miller's bestseller Song of Achilles. Join the cult of Antinous, get down with pansexual god sets in Egyptian myth, and fall for Zimbabwe's trans god Maui. And from modern pop culture through Dan John's witty, upbeat style, learn more about 90s fan obsession Warrior Princess and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I love both shows. So, interesting. On your TBR for too long, I have Once and Future, which I talked about. New or new to you author, I have The Witch and the Vampire. Never heard of it. Seems a little bit more romancy than I'm used to, but I'm giving it a chance because I couldn't find anything else. And I do love witches and vampires, so let's see. Um, Ava and Kaya used to be best friends until one night 2 years ago, vampires broke through the magical barrier protecting their town, and in the ensuing attack, Kale's mother and was killed, and Ava was turned into a vampire. Since then, Ava has been trapped in her house. Her mother, Eugenia, needs her. Ava still has her much powers, and Eugenia must take them in order to hide that she's a vampire as well. Desperate to escape her confinement and stop her mother's plans to destroy the town, Ava must break out, flee of the forest, and seek help from the vampires who live there. When there is another attack, she sees her opportunity and escapes. Kay, now at the end of her training as a flame witch, is ready to fulfill her duty of killing any vampires that threaten the town, including Ava. On the night that Ava escapes, Kay follows her and convinces her to travel together into the forest while secretly planning to turn her in. Ava agrees, hoping to rekindle their old friendship and the romantic feelings she'd started to have for Kay before the terrible night. But with monstrous trees that devour humans whole, vampires who attack from above, and Ava's stepfather tracking her, the woods are full of danger. As they travel deeper into the forest, Kay questions everything she thought she knew. The two are each other's greatest threat and also their only hope if they want to make it out through if they want to make it through the forest unscathed. Sounds kind of interesting, so I'm gonna read it and see how I feel about it. Um, Trans or non-binary MC. I have the mermaid, the witch, and the sea. Um, there it is. Um, Aboard the pirate ship Dove, Flora the girl takes on the identity of Florian the man to earn the respect and protection of the crew. For Flora, former starving urchin, the brutal life of a pirate about survival, don't trust, don't stick out, and don't feel. But on this voyage, as the pirates prepare to sell their unsuspecting passengers into slavery, Flora is drawn to the Lady Evelyn Hazagwa, who is en route to a dreaded arranged marriage with her own casket in tow. Flora doesn't expect to be taken under Evelyn's wing, and Evelyn doesn't expect to find such a deep bond with the pirate Florian. Soon the unlikely pair set in motion a wild escape that will free a captured mermaid converted for the blood, which causes men to have visions and lose memories, and involve the mysterious pirate supreme, an optimistic witch, and the all-encompassing sea itself. Interesting. So for vampires, I also have the witch and the vampire, and for choose your own prompt, you get to choose whatever prompt you want. I chose reread, and I decided Hocus Pocus is the all new sequel. I've been thinking about rereading that anyways. Um, so the beginning of it is basically just the first movie, and the second Hocus Pocus movie I despise. I hate it so much. I have several reasons. Maybe one of these days I'll make a video on why I hate that movie so much and why it was terrible. But what I think they should have done is adapted this book into a movie. Because I actually prefer the sequel book over the original movie. I still love Hocus Pocus, but the sequel is amazing. It's about Max and Allison's daughter, Poppy, and her best friend, Travis, her crush, Isabella, and then her frenemy, who is, if you've seen the first Hocus Pocus, the two bullies, the guy with blonde hair, I think that's the one. His daughter, who is basically Poppy's frenemy, Katie. Um, the four of them are set out on a mission because the witches come back. Because this isn't much of a spoiler because it happens pretty early on. But basically, they bring the witches back, but this time they do it differently than before. They do a spell, and what happens is that three witches come out, but three people have to take their place in hell. So Max, Alice, and Danny go to hell, and Sanderson witches are free, and they decide to try to do that to every witch, including their mother. And the stakes are 10 times as high than they were because all they had to do in Hocus Pocus was basically run out the clock, because once uh, dawn happens, then it undoes everything, and they go back to hell. But this way, they have to actually reverse it, because if they don't reverse it in time, it becomes permanent. So the stakes are 10 times as high, and not because first of all, if they don't stop it, then it becomes permanent, and her family's in hell forever. But also, they're the witches are sending lots and lots of innocent people to hell to free other witches, awful witches. And it's so good. You even see Binks and his sister, again, I remember her name, Emily, as ghosts this time instead of a cat, and also another ghost, which is the fourth Sanderson sister, but she was a good witch, and it's so good, so good, and I love it. I think it's far better than I love Hocus Pocus, but I think it was better than Hocus Pocus too. And I love Poppy and Isabella's relationship; they were so cute, and I love Travis and his friendship with Poppy. I love their relationship, and yeah, I love this book, and I definitely think all Hocus Pocus book lovers should read it, especially if you did not like that movie like I didn't. Like this book makes up for it. I still think they should have just turned this book into a movie instead of making that book or that movie. But yeah, so that is what I plan to read this Sapphic September. Please like and subscribe and comment what you plan to read, and I will chat with you guys in the comments. Until next time.